Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for organizing this and thank you for being here. For being here as part of the solution. And I know being part of the solution is such a painful issue. Because we are speaking here about two truths, two victims, and two truths which are true. And how do we create justice for two victims? That's the big deal. You know, wherever I go for the last 13 years of my life, wherever I go to speak, I always tell the story of the House of Lords in London. I was invited to the House of Lords to give a speech, and when I entered the room, I saw two groups of lords. Lords pro-Israel and Lords pro-Palestine. And they don't sit with each other because they are pro-us. And they create even conflict between Muslim and Jewish and Christian in the UK. And we have to go there to tell lords to be pro-solution. Isn't that insane?
It is.
And for me, being pro-solution doesn't mean to step back and say, we will deal with it. These people will deal with it. We are not taking sides. The solution for that conflict is very clear. I think that solution has to be under one title. When the human rights and the national rights of the two nations will become in harmony of their life under a political design of whatever is it, I think this is peace. But how to reach there is a big deal. It's a big deal. And believe me, my life hasn't become easier after I joined non-violence and reconciliation. It has become more complex. Because, you know, victimhood and rightness sometimes is conflictual. Because your expectation from others that these are the guilty ones, and I have to have justice, and I have nothing to do for solution. I am the victim, and they are the perpetrators, and they are the ones who did that to me, and they are the ones even who deserve to be punished. And if they are punished, this is legitimate, and I am the right one. And then we expect solutions. How? I don't know. I really don't know. And I was not raised in these values of reconciliation and peace. I think I grew up believing in the opposite, totally, of what I just told you. Because I grew up, yes, as a victim. When Israel was created as a national identity and a political identity for the Jewish people, my nation has lost their identity. My father has lost his home, and my family has spread all over. And I grew up carrying this narrative on my shoulders and in my heart. And even within my community, growing up as a refugee, others was labeling me that I belong to somewhere else. Yes, it is the same place, but it's not to that city or to that village that my family moved, village after village. And I always felt a stranger. I always felt a stranger by my community. I don't own land there to build a home. I have no work, and I'm not connected. My father suffers from that. Maybe for me it was easier, but for my father was a big challenge. And he has to travel between part of the family who lives in Jordan and part of the family who lives in Palestine. And he has to make everyone safe. And that was a hard mission to do. And I'm sure he hates to be a father. He hates even himself, to be born in this reality. Then that was the first thing which creates inside me anger. I'm not sure if that was hatred exactly, because to hate someone, you have to know them. I didn't know who are the Jews. Then secondly, by the reality that I live in, I grow up under a military occupation, which has controlled all of me. All of my physical movements, all of my rights, even all of my dreams, has controlled me. And controlling me by preventing me from my rights, from practicing my humanity, growing up, that my childhood was forbidden. That's what I felt. Then I was born to a very political family, where my mother joined PLO. She became a Fatah leader since 1970, even before I was born. Then when I opened my eyes when I was 10 years old, that was the first time she was arrested. Then I saw her get humiliated by the Israeli army and by the Israeli security. They used to attack our house at the middle of night, and whether they arrest her or arrest one of my brothers. Our house was known as an office for PLO. It was known. The house of the leadership. The house of the leadership of the resistance of the Israeli occupation. Then I encountered all of these events against my family, but when I was going to my school every day, I was stuck with soldiers, tear gas, bullets, rubber bullets, and sometimes I was coming back without my bag, without my books, without any single silent moment in my life. Then when the first Intifada, first Palestinian uprising started in 1987, it didn't take me a minute even to think to participate. I just participated. Because I was seeking for a place to throw out this anger. And sometimes I am amazed when people ask me why Palestinians educate their kids to hate. Believe me, if you live just one day this life conditions, you don't need a specific curriculum for hatred. It makes the job for you. And this is what Israelis don't understand. For them, having the army in the West Bank, in Gaza, is to secure themselves. But for us, it's an occupying army that prevents us from normal life. And to understand that, this is a big deal. It's a mission for the peace movement today. Anyways, then I participated in the Intifada, and I became a young Fatah activist, and I was prepared for armed struggle. I was trained on Kalashnikov when I was 15 years old. It was even heavier than me. But I really, with all of that anger, I couldn't shoot someone. I was not born to kill anyone. I was born as a human being, naked from any hatred. But this is what that occupation has educated me to do, honestly. Then I start participating in that Intifada deeply. I throw tons of stones. I collect many people to Fatah movement. And I was arrested with my mother. So both of us were arrested in 1990. And they gave me, the military court gave me 10 years in prison. And they gave her 7 years and a half in prison. At that moment, I was 17 years old. At that moment, I felt the injustice, because it was a punishment, because I refused to give information about my mother to the Israeli security. Then they promised me 10 years to prison, where I said to them, you can't. And they did. So I felt that moment that all of my dreams has collapsed. Totally. I wanted to travel overseas and I wanted to study. Even I had an insane Palestinian dream to be a pilot, where I have no passport even that time. How can I travel? But you know, kids' dreams. And then I become, more than anger, I become more broken totally. And when I went to prison, there is different prisons. There is prisons who have people that has been there for many, many years. And there is prisons for people who go for months, different prisons. So for the first time, I went to that prison that has Palestinians who have been there for 20, 25 years, 30 years. And I didn't know that I was going to the best university that you can imagine. Because these people there succeed to create a system, even a government, full control of their life by themselves, by having 5 committees to lead and manage their daily life, even their relation with the Israeli police inside the prison. So there was education committee, management, national security and negotiation committee. It was a government. And this system has raised me up. And I become so busy inside the prison. When I sometimes write to my friends to apologize that I have no time to keep writing to them, they were shocked. How come you are in prison and you have no time? And I really was having no time, because you have to sit twice a day in a circle, have to study. My English, part of it comes from there. My Hebrew language has become like my Arabic language. I have learned Hebrew, and I have learned many, many things. And the best thing that I have learned is me and about me. In prison, the travel agent for you is a book. You travel. In prison is the mirror to see yourself. You are disengaged from direct activities, political activities. But you live in this moral, educated environment. The people who were to prison, these are the best, the chosen people of the nation, the leadership of the nation, professors, doctors. And they raise you up. But the best experience that happens to me, which has changed my life, after 3 years, me and my mother wanted to visit each other. We were in different prisons. Then the Israeli authority refused. Then we participated in a hunger strike for 17 days to achieve that. And after starving and struggling, for the first time in my life, I achieved something from the Israelis. For the first time in my life. Then I discovered that there is something powerful more than any physical action. Then I discovered that I was stuck with rightness and giving legitimacy for my act. And I was stuck there because I was convinced that armed struggle, any struggle, is legal because it's against the occupier. Then I was just right, but not successful. then there was the transformation where I said to myself, do I want to be right or do I want to succeed? Then that event has influenced me deeply. Then in 1994, Oslo Peace Initiative was signed and we were released. We were released and our mission was to build the Palestinian constitutions under the Palestinian Authority system, and also to transform the Palestinian nation from a place of revolution and fight against the occupier to a place of citizenship. Then we should stop serving revolution and leading actions against Israel and encouraging the Oslo peace process, hopefully to reach independence for having our Palestinian independent state. We had hope by that time. And our mission as ex-prisoners was to lead that. We built the whole constitutions of that authority. I arrested Palestinians who participated in violence, because our political approach was to prevent from any violence attack and to create an environment where it will lead us to our independence. But on the other hand, we were challenged. We were challenged by the continuation of the Israeli occupation on the ground, which has weakened us even to prove that violence is illegal, because people still identified and use violence as a legitimate action against the occupier. Then we were challenged by part of the corruption of the politicians. We were challenged by international political investment in our conflict, because we know that there is different parties are not willing for us to reach any solution around the world. And we were challenged by the despair and by lack of trust and knowing that there was no reconciliation committee, one reconciliation committee, because you cannot create reconciliation without building the values of reconciliation. To heal the reality, to heal the past as past, not as continuation of the crime on the ground. You cannot do that. Then the whole thing has collapsed in 2000. People have lost their home. And I'm not coming from a radical nation. I'm not coming from a fanatic nation, but people were broken. People have faced events in their life can easily drive them to madness. Now what has happened, you could see suicide bombers for the first time. You could see Air Force Merkava tanks attacking civilians. That didn't happen before. Madness in 2000, which has created so much to heal. And many people have lost their life. One of them was my brother. I was badly wounded by a settler, and I was sent to Saudi Arabia for medical treatment, and my mother came with me, where we received the news that Yusuf, my older brother, 31 years old, was stopped and very violently killed by Israeli soldiers. So what do you do? After all what I have been through, now I'm losing my brother also. What shall I do? How can I live? Is there any reason to open my eyes in the morning? No. And the first thing that you think And the first legitimate and right thing to do is revenge. This is what human beings do. When someone humiliates you and take the best taste of your life, then you just think about revenge. Punishment. So what could be that punishment? What could be that punishment? How many Israelis has to be killed to feed this pain, to heal this wound? And how many Israeli mothers has to cry to realize that my mother don't deserve to cry? How many Jewish people has to be buried underground to open their eyes for the right of the people who live on the ground? And how many broken hearts has to be broken for our hearts to heal that event? So what could be the number to bring my brother back? Number of dead people. Then I realized that there is no number. Even if all Israelis will disappear, my brother will not come back. Then what? Does that mean that there is no revenge? So what? If there is no revenge, what shall I do? I was stuck between my political non-violence mind that experienced non-violence as a political action in the prison, and my heart that was bleeding, broken. I was having this conflict. Sometimes I slept and I dreamed that the other side will disappear. Shouldn't be born even. And sometimes I slept and I wished that I will not wake up. I don't want to wake up. But I'm a human being. I wake up and I have to have reason to live and to continue living normally. So what shall I do? And if I participate in any revenge, then again, I will kill you, you kill me. I'll kill you, you kill me. And it's endless. So what shall I do? I really was stuck. Nothing could bring me back to breathe normally, even though to hold all of the injustice around me. Because I lived that injustice before, but living it without Yusuf was a big deal. Because he was the best friend of mine. He was the reason of my living. He worth Palestine and Israel and the whole planet. And I promise you, I'm ready to give up anything that you can imagine. Anything. Just to bring him back to his kids. But this will not happen. So what could be worth such a price? What? Which religion? What land? Which politics could be worth human being life? Then, after 1 year of struggling that way, and I'm not disengaged of the other side, from the other side. I have to face these soldiers every day. And one of them could be the killer of my brother. And I have to hold it, where I have to have from that guy a permit to come out from my village to the main street, because we needed that, a period of time. So how can I hold all of this? And I remember there was a time I didn't want to leave my house. And even though I was stuck with soldiers, you cannot just disengage from them. So one year after, we received the most weird phone call. a religious Israeli man calling my brother by a girl from here, actually, from Ithaca. Her name is Deborah Hyams. He contacted her and he wanted to visit my mother with a group of bereaved Israeli parents. And Deborah talked to my brother, spoke to him, and when he came to my mother to tell her, I was expecting that my mother will slap him in his face. Because my mother is a fighter, is a hero. She will never accept Israelis in my home. I was shocked when my mother said they are welcome. I was shocked. I couldn't understand. Then they came, and it's illegal. We took them from around with our Palestinian cars, and they came to that house which was full with bereaved families and with community leaders that my mother invited after she spoke to Arafat, to the authority, to everyone, and everyone was blessing because they trust her a lot. And for the first in my life, it was shocking to me to see an Israeli crying. I couldn't really imagine that Jewish people have tears. I couldn't, until that moment. Then it's not about rightness anymore. Then you realize that the devil has a face that respects you. Before they come, I felt respect because they call us. Israelis used to come to our home, they never call. They just come and damage and arrest. Calling us, having our permission, was a kind of respect. Then I thought, well, it's another group of these lefties, who wants to have legitimacy for the Israeli act, and we are not equal. How can we share anything with these people? That was the conflict inside me, even though my mother decided that day to join that group. That day, she decided. But it was conflicting too. We are not equal on the ground. And I was having all of these arguments that my brother was killed because of your occupation, but your kids were killed because you are occupied. This is part of the argument. But then finally, I hear them speaking about my rights. I hear their admission to my rights. I hear them speaking about the injustice that they disagree with, and they want to act even against that. That touched me deeply. Then I joined the Parent Circle Families Forum, and I have created movements, programs, everything. Then recently, after I realized few things that I'm going to share with you, why I'm speaking to this man. And I will tell you soon why I'm speaking to settlers today. I realize that we, peace activists, has created bubble to ourselves. And we prevent ourselves from the both communities by not creating a movement. We create organizations for peace, but we don't create a national movement for peace that can force, pressure, encourage politicians to sit and come up with solutions that need courage and need recognition of painful price to be able to be paid by these politicians. Organizations will not succeed to push these politicians to sign that agreement. It has to be a national movement, a national pressure on the ground. This is one. The other thing, I realize that part of these peace organizations is created and led by retired politicians. or retired generals. After they play their games of our blood, they become peacemakers. And you hear them like Mandelas and Gandhis. And they propose these proposals of millions of dollars to USAID from your tax. And they have these fancy offices where they create a gap between themselves and the community. This is another thing in the peace culture. Third, we put labels. We speak to those, we don't speak to those. These are good, these are not good. If you are a solution maker, whom you want to speak with? The people who agree with you or disagree with you? If you are a solution maker, I think you want to speak to the people who disagree with you. Because the people who agree with you, they are with you. The problem is not by them or from them. The problem is that with the people and within the people, within the community which disagree with you. But you know, we peace activists want always to feel good with ourselves. We have this culture, you know. We don't like people to argue with us because we are perfect, we are peaceful. Others are bad. Then I realized that the peace movement in Israel has no courage enough to speak to settlers. But that peace movement is not courageous enough to act in the West Bank, where is the heart of the problem. The problem is not in Tel Aviv. The problem is in the West Bank and Gaza. There I want to see the peace movement. The checkpoint where Palestinians get humiliated every day. There I want to see the Israeli activists coming and saving people's lives. Because these checkpoints are just machines of hatred, to create hatred. This is the place where to act. And believe me, I'm tired of five-star peace conferences. Five-star peace. I'm tired of these invitations where you take a group and they hug each other and they eat hummus and we are nice. It's a painful truth to me. It is very painful to me to say all of what I'm saying. That's why Palestinians are afraid to get in touch with Jewish people because they will be normalizers. Normalizing the occupation. And they can't. How can you normalize a relation in abnormal political situation? You can't, even if you want, you can't. So, no one, when you create an action on the ground, no one can blame you as a normalizer because you serve people and change people's life conditions. Peace for Palestinians is not to participate in dialogue. Dialogue is not a goal for us. But for Israelis, for many Israelis, it has become a dialogue, a goal. They want to see a Palestinian speech against violence and that's it. For us, yes, we do that. I am against violence totally, from each side. But it's not enough for me. This will not serve my life in the Haitian refugee camp or in Geneva refugee camp. So we need to understand how to serve peace. So we argue about 1 state, 2 state, 100 state, but we are not ready to open this argument, how do we create peace? How do we act peacefully and what we do in these actions? This is the big question. You cannot create peace by argument between left and right. If we really want to be part of peace building, let us go out from this bubble and from this judgment against each other. So finally, I landed in a piece of land in Gush Etzion, where Hanan lives, 20 meters. My family has a piece of land, and always we struggle. We are not allowed to build. We have no right for resources of water, electricity, nothing by the Israeli army and by the Israeli occupation. So I landed there and I wanted to create a Palestinian non-violent center. Because I believe non-violence is a challenge. Non-violence is to challenge the situation and not to be led by the situation. Is to lead, to control the situation by controlling your action in a clever way. So I came to that piece of land, I started creating that center where I found myself speaking to settlers. Then I realized these nice lifties in Tel Aviv used to tell me, Ali, we are good, we don't speak to settlers, we are good people. He teaches me English. We are good people, we don't speak to settlers. Well, wow, what a partner I have in Tel Aviv who don't speak to settlers. This is the truth. Then I found myself sitting with settlers and bringing these lifties to sit with settlers in my land, in Gush Etzion. Because I want my right as a Palestinian. I don't want my right to be stuck between left and right in Tel Aviv. Between Gush Etzion and Tel Aviv. This is not the partnership that I'm willing to have. And then I realized that where is the heart of the problem, it has to be the heart of the solution. And I know, and I promise you, it's painful too. It's painful. It's a courage. It's not easy even to talk to these people because the community will judge. Both communities. You have no idea what some of these people are facing by their community. I discovered that. And what are we facing? But you know, we're not talking here about building another bubble in Gush Etzion. We are talking about a very unique initiative that will prove to politicians that even the people that you think that they are the last ones who want solution, they are the first ones who are encouraging you to do that. And this is the courage. A voice from the right wing, not from the left wing. I always say that if the left wing in Tel Aviv will lead war, the right wing will follow easily. But if the left wing will lead peace, it's not exactly that the right wing will follow. But if the right wing lead peace, the left wing for sure will follow. So the act should be with the right wing. That's what I think needed to do. And it's again a question. Do you want to be right or do you want to succeed? Because if I want to be right, I will never come here with this man. Regarding that argument. And my community consider me, I promise you, as a hero. I don't need to come here I have a credibility in my community. But my life is not happy. My life is not normal. I can't be stuck there. And coming to you doesn't mean that we are giving legitimacy to settlement or to violence or to Hamas or to Shas or to anyone. We're trying to tell you that even though the hard political arguments for different parties and with different parties, we are able to act together. And we want you to be engaged in that action. Why? And especially that the other thing that I am doing today with many local leaders in Palestine, many local leaders, ex-prison, people who work in prison for 20 years, ex-leaders, ex-fighters, wounded people, bereaved people, politicians, young activists. We are creating a Palestinian national movement called Change. It's very, very new initiative. To have a new identity for action, because we are confused as a nation. Are we fighters? Or we citizens? You have the policeman on the road in Palestine, in the Palestinian territories, and you have law and to wear a gun and to lead violence action is illegal. But on the other hand, you have the occupier. So what do? Shall you respect that authority with its laws which prevent you to act and to be a nice kid and to accept all what has been done to you and still? Or you become a citizen with no rights, with no citizenship. I have a passport, but I'm not a citizen. What is written on my passport? The Palestinian Authority, not Palestine. And I have to respect the law, the constitution. But how can I do such a thing without engagement of the two things? One, so this is what we decide why we need a movement. One is to resist the occupation non-violently by creating a strategy. 1, 2, 3, 4. Clear action, clear strategy, and also by engaging Israelis in our approach. Because the minute that 10,000 Palestinians will rise non-violently on the Palestinian street, I promise you, 100,000 will rise in Tel Aviv. I know that very well. I experienced that. On the other hand, I believe today that the price of peace is victimizing us. Because this price of peace is not acceptable to us. What is acceptable to us is the price of war. We victimize ourselves by accepting the price of war, not the price of peace. But I believe that the minute that the price of peace will be cheaper than the price of war, we will have peace. But this cannot be cheaper, that price cannot be cheaper without knowing each other. This price cannot be cheaper. Because peace today is a threat. It's fearful. Peace is shameful even. How you dare to sit with them is shameful. How come? The best value of life has become fearful and shameful. That's the truth in the Middle East. And that's what we want to change by doing what we are doing. And that's why we are here, not to collect you to be pro this or pro that, to be pro solution, dignity, justice, freedom, security for all, by action. We need your action. One day we will need your action on the street among your politicians that they are also causing us a high price. Thank you.
Roots is about creating the framework that doesn't exist anyplace else for local Palestinians and local settlers or geographical neighbors to meet each other, to break down those barriers created by the distance and the ignorance so that we can see the humanity in the face of the other, begin to understand the other's life, the other's truth, the other's narrative, and to incorporate that on both sides into our own narrative and our own truth and our own understanding. And when, I'm telling you from experience, my personal experience in seeing tens and hundreds of other people been transformed, some a lot and some a little, by the contact with the other, by listening to the other, not by arguing, but by listening and listening again and listening more. So what we do is we have meetings like the one you saw in the film at the very beginning, of families, of individuals. We have women's meetings. We have children's programs. We have a photography workshop going on right now. 5 Palestinian kids, 5 Israeli kids, once a week coming together to see the world through the lens of the camera. And after 4 or 5 weeks, the workshop ends and a new group of kids begins. Another 5 weeks, a new group of kids. Another children's program is our summer camp. Last year during the war in Gaza, we had a summer camp in which kids from both sides, little kids up to the age of, I think it was 14, simply were together, played together. We had a petting zoo, we had khimar, we had clay, we had soccer, we had a donkey ride. And the second day of the camp, we went to the beach together. Can you imagine that? All together, 50 kids who don't know each other's language, sitting in the same bus together, hearing the other speak their language, hearing the other songs, going into the water together, eating from the same tub of hummus together. I have to admit, the kids didn't talk to each other a lot. We don't have a common language, but the fact that they were together, doing things together, absolutely, positively, set something off inside them, transformed something, and we hope and we pray, we're certain we'll see the seeds of that in the future. Until the present day, it's just been a year we've been doing this, we've received 7,000 visitors to our center. Half of them have been from around the world. People who hear our story, American Jews, interfaith groups, Christians, Muslims, people from Europe, and that's good, and that's important to us, but what's more important is the Israelis who come and the Palestinians who come to meet each other. And what's even more important is the very, very local people who come, not just the Palestinians from Ramallah and the leftists from Tel Aviv who come to meet settlers and meet Palestinians, but it's the local people in the 22 settlements of Gush Etzion, in Beit Umar, in Hebron, in Beit Lechem, that in our programs come to see each other, to hear each other, to understand each other.